All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside. Welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune. Well, let me put my volume up again. It's a tradition, isn't it? I do it after the fact. I don't think it messes anything up, though. But I like to have everything in place. But of course, you know how that goes. Best laid plans and all. It doesn't always happen. So if you haven't been here before, welcome. And what I do here is I do a one-card reading, and then I do a one-rune reading to see how they combine. Usually I let the rune inform the tarot card instead of the other way around, which shows you my bias. I'm mostly a rune person in terms of divination. When I really need to do something, I go to the runes. I've always done runes. Tarot has not been something that has been part of my life as much as runes. And until the last, maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I've just gotten more into tarot than I ever have in the past. So I'm not really sure why. But I mean, I've always been interested in tarot, but there's just something about the runes that seem to resonate more for me. So it's probably a heritage thing. I have Druid ancestry, so, there's a reason for all of it, I think. I didn't know that, until I started researching my ancestry. And then I discovered everybody I'm related to. I went looking for witches on my maternal side because I wanted to find a reason for why I'm the way I am, because witchcraft was not something that I embraced later on in life. This was just something I always knew from the moment I could know anything. I knew when I was little that I was a witch. I was already an empath, and so I was already experiencing the world in a way that made people uncomfortable. So, I don't know. The first time I ever read a story about witches or about, Halloween or whatever, or saw something on TV or whatever, it's like, oh yeah, that's me. And I knew it. And I also knew enough to keep my mouth shut about it because, back in the day, you weren't so open about any of this. Witchcraft used to be illegal. And so in some places it probably still is. I mean, in some places, people are still being hurt for being witches. And all a witch is somebody who feels the resonance of earth energies. They feel a connection to the collective consciousness in a way maybe other people don't, and they like to work with those energies. They recognize that the world is just, that everything is just one big vibration. And so we just tend to focus on those things, whereas maybe someone else doesn't. And so most witches are into healing. They're into herbs. I'm an herbalist. So that's really all witchcraft is. It's not about worshiping the devil. I don't really know any witches who believe that a devil exists, that's a reflection of the lower self more than anything else. It's not like there was a guy who decided to be a devil or whatever. It's not, it isn't like that. That's symbolic of the dark aspect or physical aspect of self. So, we got a bad name because, the clergy didn't like us. And then when doctors came to be, they didn't want that old witch in the edge of the village to heal their patients. No, they wanted them coming to them, So as always, this is what happens. So, we got relegated to being evil and all of that. And we're not. So we're just there are some that have an attitude about things, but I'm not one of them. So I researched my ancestry and found out that, you know, I couldn't go very far on my mother's side, but on the paternal side, there I hit the mother lode. And oh yeah, King Solomon, you know, royalty, Merovingian, Plantagenet, all of that stuff. I go all the way back to Adam, and I can trace it all the way to, you know, the Blessed Virgin. I can trace it through Mary Magdalene. So I'm of that persuasion, evidently, which sort of then, you know, makes sense why I'm the way I am. But I don't know. I have a ancestor, Jaquetta, who traces her lineage back to goddess Melusine. And I went and I purchased Gerald Clark's Gerald Clark. Yeah, he did an ancestry, a genealogy, including, you know, the extraterrestrial influence in the world. And so I purchased that and I added that into my ancestry. So mine actually goes back a little further than Adam. So that was fun to do. But, you know, when you start seeing titans and nymphs and things like that, you know, and you see all that in your ancestry, you're going, someone was brave here and put that in. So you want to end up knowing more. It's like, okay, where else? And then you just discover that, you know, this is who we all are. It isn't just me. It's everyone. So, but it's fun to look at that kind of stuff, I think. So let's count 13 and see what we have for this Thursday. It is a Thursday. Oh, yesterday I said it was the 11th of January. You know, sometimes it's in my heat pump. I got finally finished yesterday. The electrician came and we got the breaker in. And so now we can run air conditioning without any fear of something not being exactly right. I guess we can run it, but it just isn't exactly right. So, and they want it to be when they come for an inspection. So anyway, it is not January, it is July. So I corrected that in the comments. So here, let's count 13 and see what we have today. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, another, I don't like this card. I like what other deck creators have called it. This is the 20th card of the Major Arcana. It's called Judgment. This does not reflect my concept of life, or, you know, the notion of the angel. I suppose this is Gabriel. I don't believe angels are angels. I think they're something else, but that's just me. We've deified these people simply because they were more advanced than we were. And here we are at you know, 20 reduces to 2. So that's balance and polarity. So here, you know, in terms of it's the next to the last card in the Major Arcana. So in terms of our soul's journey, now we're sort of, you know, coming to that place of, you know, we're going to look at what we've done and all of that. They're happy about it. You know, they're embracing something new. They've reached a balance in their development. Druidcraft calls this rebirth. And it shows, it is the coolest card because it shows this small child, a toddler, emerging from this cave. And it's just so cool. And to me, it's about, you know, rebirth and the eon. Crowley calls it the eon. Other decks, newer decks that are non-traditional, they also, I've seen some of them call it the eon. I think maybe Heindel does as well. I'm not sure. But it's about realization and living in the moment and renewal and awakening and seeing the bigger picture and transformation of spirit. We've learned all this stuff along the way, and here we are bringing it all together before we embark on something new with the final universe card. That's when it all rolls up together and we see it all, and then we all begin anew. But if we want to talk about the word judgment, if you think in terms of judgment, then you have the notion of I either did something right or wrong. Now, that's not necessarily what our life truly is. If we choose the experiences that we have, I just wrote a thing on the blog about what it's like to experience chronic illness. Um, I had rheumatoid arthritis. I guess I still have it, but I had rheumatoid arthritis severely for 13 years. I healed with cannabis. I went into remission after 2.5 months of cannabis concentrates. All those years on medicines did nothing but make my body toxic. And so it didn't help me. It only hurt me. And I don't know. I'm just one of those people that I guess that stuff doesn't work for. If it works for you, terrific. It just did not do that for me. So it just made me sicker. I just got sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And it was, but at the same time, it isn't something that happened to me. It's something that I decided I was going to experience before I ever came into form. Evidently, I wanted to have that experience, and for whatever reason. And sometimes it's not just about the experience that we have for ourselves, but it's the effect that that creates for other people, and then that creates experiences for them. And so we all come together prior to incarnating and create these little contracts between us that, okay, I'm going to help you do that, and okay, I'll help you do that. And we actually approach this stuff with eagerness and joy, believe it or not. As bad as I felt and as horrible as it was, you know, I'm on the other side of it now, and I chose it for a reason. I'm still, that reason was maybe to see the effect it has on other people, maybe to understand and have compassion for people that helped me along the way. And the burden on my husband alone, we owned a business. It was just awful for everyone concerned. Well, mostly it was just awful for the two of us because our children weren't living with us. They were in college at the time. But so he had the primary burden of dealing with me and our business and everything else. And it was difficult, you know? And so you ask yourself, well, then if I'm going to find meaning in this, and if I own it and I take responsibility for it, and I made the decision to do this, the experience itself, at least thinking about it, reflecting upon it like we do in this, takes on a whole other idea, doesn't it? And we're no longer the victim. We're somebody that made a choice to experience this. We're not attaching any judgment to it, good or bad or indifferent. It just is. And we're just taking from it what we can. And when we're done with it, we let it go. I said in that blog post, I read Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, and my husband had read it, and he's like, here, read this. And so, I mean, I'd heard of it, but I just had never read it. And so I read it, and it, it changed my life, as it does for lots of people. And I just decided that day I wasn't going to be sick anymore. And I then, and then I got really ill, even more ill. It's just like, oh yes, you are. And then I made the decision to become a cannabis patient, and I healed. Cannabis and how I healed with it. And I wrote a book. My first book I wrote was on, it's called Confessions of a Back Porch Herbalist. It's available on Amazon Kindle. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. It just talks about how I did that and how I also use traditional herbs to stay in remission along with cannabis. But the point is that we make these choices in life. Sometimes life happens to us, but I guarantee you somewhere before we came here, we decided to participate in that, to see just exactly what that was like. And how do you then remain, in your source presence while you're experiencing all of it, or do you give way to the other side of self, which is ego? So if there's a realization to get in terms of judgment card or rebirth or eon or whatever, if there's any realization to get, is that you are the one conceiving of your universe. You are the one who is projecting your collective consciousness about what this all is call it your perception, call it whatever you want to call it, you're the one doing it. And it, of course, it's in concert with other people, in agreement with other people. Even the conflict we have is in agreement with other people. The conflict we're all experiencing worldwide is in agreement. We need to get through this and get to the other side of this nonsense. We need to bring it all out in the open so we can see how ridiculous it all is. And that's why this is all happening. You know, ascension is here. We need to figure it out. You know, we need to get ready for a more spiritual experience. And so we need to clear out the crap. It's like, you know, when, I don't know about you guys, maybe you keep your refrigerators cleaned out. I don't. So things will be in there for years. And so one day I'll just sit down in front of the refrigerator with a sack and I'll just start pulling things out. And that's basically what, metaphorically anyway, what's happening right now. We're pulling things out. We're looking at them. We're going, yeah, this is outdated. Let's throw this away and let's not use this anymore. So, but we have to understand that we all play a part in what's happening, if not the only part. You know, maybe you see conflict where there is none. Maybe you see pain where there is none. You know, maybe you're missing the bigger picture, you know, where someone's upset about something that you're doing and you're not seeing it. So maybe you're missing your role in your life. And that's, to me, what this card means, is that you need to sit up and take responsibility for the fact that you came here with intention to experience certain things, and that's what we're doing. So don't play the victim card. You're not the victim. If you don't like what's going on in your life, you got to figure out a way to either still be spiritual within that, or you got to figure out a way to fix it and get rid of it. It's really that simple. So, well, it's not simple necessarily to fix things, is it? But it's simple to come to about things. Because if not, you get stuck, don't you? And you never move on. So, but let's see what the rune has to say to inform us a little more about this. I feel so strongly about this, you know, having come through what I've come through in my life. And you know, I can sit here and say, oh, well, you know, and be in a pity party about all of it. But the fact is, somewhere in there is me and my own participation and my own presence. So don't be so swift to pass the buck, I guess, and blame everyone else. See how you contribute to your own life. And the happiness or lack thereof, because let's face it, that's a choice. Ewas. It's got laguz forward and reverse, doesn't it? Well, Manaz, or Ewas rather, Manaz, it looks like Manaz, only it's not completely Manaz. But Ewas is the 19th rune of the Elder Futhar. So that actually, so 9 and 1 is 10. That reduces to 1. So new beginnings. Again, that aligns well with judgment. It's the next step of new beginnings, or maybe the same step. It's a water rune. So it signifies abrupt change as well. Laguz itself is also a water rune. And so we're talking about water, we're talking about emotions, but we're also talking about flow, energy flow, energetic flow. And so one of the things that this is also about harmony and friendship and pulling together. If you look at the center of this, you see Laguz does this, and then reversed it does this. But together, they pull those emotions together and that harmony together. So in a sense, it's bringing together resistance and non-resistance, okay? And finding some kind of blend. Because if you simply are living completely in non-resistance, then maybe you're not paying attention to things. So you don't want to live completely non-resistantly, although Eckhart Tolle might disagree with me. Oh, no, just be non-resistant about everything. Well, I don't know. I think sometimes you have to do things. And so You can't always be in the allowing mode. But this is also thought of by some people in some rune masters, I guess you'd call us, or rune stirs, or rune practitioners, or whatever you want to call us. It's also thought of as the Merkaba, or Merkaba, or the vehicle for soul travel. I think that when you get to this point, in terms of the soul's journey, when you've reached judgment or rebirth or eon, the 20th card, you're getting toward the end of the realizations that you've come here to realize. And what we need to realize, one of the things I have written here in the little grimoire, is binding toward a mutual end. And that's really what we have to understand. We're either binding the self, the aspects of self, toward a mutual end of judgment, and then the final card of universe or the world or whatever you want to call it, depends on the deck. But basically what this is talking about is preserving unity and the unified presence that we all exist in. If we're binding toward a mutual end, then we're trying to, and I suppose it could be for a negative purpose, but it could also be for a positive purpose. And so I think what we're watching today playing out globally is maybe a pulling apart of that, where the service to self folks are wanting what they want, and the service to others are going, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't work. It can't all be about you or a chosen few. So when you see Ehwaz, you're looking at that basically playing out as a runic influence. It's saying that harmony is the way to go here. And it's not that we can't all agree that, hey, we need to take care of this person right now, just like those kids in the cave. We all need to stop and go take care of that. It isn't, it's all got to be about everybody all the time. It isn't. But when we elevate all of us, okay? And we have the security and the love and all of that to be able to look at something else and say, you know what, we need to all just come together for this purpose. Doesn't have anything to do with me, doesn't have anything to do with you, but it has to do with them, and we need to go help them. So we have to have whatever that is, whatever you want to call that ability, that awareness, that focus. We need to see that is the way forward. We see expressions of when that's not happening all the time now, and where we aren't able to think about the greater unified presence of all. But when we're able to do that, you see, we can move easily over obstacles because answers are there, aren't they? You've got all these voices illuminating a problem, and we can come together and we can fix that. So this is really about who we're working with and how we're working toward a harmonious end of something. And I don't know. I just think that should involve more than just a couple of people. So I think then for today, the message would be from both the tarot card and the rune to think about how do we come together with others? How do we unify any kind of issues of conflict within the self? How do we take responsibility for the choices that we make and understand that our lives are largely, or at least how we see our life, if not the circumstances of them, but at least how we perceive them, that power is always within us. So we can be in a really crappy situation, but still remain, balanced harmoniously within, and just accepting of, okay, this is where I'm at, but I don't have to give over my mood or my belief or anything else or who I am to this moment. I can still be, spirit embodying this body. I don't have to fall prey and react to everything going on around me. I can still keep myself still and aligned and all of that. So that's really what this is talking about. So think about that for today, and see how that resonates for you. In fact, think about it for a while. You know, this is even longer than today, because I really think that this is the foundation of who we are. And I think we come into these bodies and we forget all of that, and we fall prey and victim to everything that's happening around us. We stop creating what's happening around us, and instead we fall prey. We're looking around and we're getting all upset. It's like, oh no. Well, maybe think a little bit about that and try to find a way to find some peace amidst the chaos. So thanks for stopping by, and check out my blog, Stepping Aside, at imsteppingaside.com. I'm Jan Erickson, and have a wonderful day, and blessed be.